Thank you very much. So to kick us off this morning, we are going to give a short introduction of Invest in Africa. So Invest in Africa is a private sector partnership initiative. We are really working to drive economic growth and job creation, and we see this being enabled by us catalyzing the growth of SMEs. That's why we are focusing a lot on SMEs. And the vision is to prosper African economies, because we believe that SMEs are the backbone of any African economy, and especially so if we can speak about Kenya, where we are at the moment. That's why we are focusing on catalyzing growth for you, so that you can be able to support this economy by sustaining the jobs that you already have, and by creating new jobs. So our vision is to prosper African economies. We do this by enabling trade between the SME and the large corporates or multinationals. So we have opportunities created by our partners who are corporate and multinationals, and these opportunities are availed to SMEs who are able to respond and deliver to the contracts by us building your capacity through enhancing your access to skills, and of course linking you to the finance that you need to effectively deliver. We have a very ambitious 2025 target that we know we are going to make with all your partnership, to create at least 250,000 jobs, and to link you to contracts worth at least $1 billion by 2025. That is why we are here. What have we achieved so far? So we have 3 initiatives. Through access to skills and through these masterclasses alone, we have reached over 1,000 SMEs. And we are very keen also on certifying SMEs on anti-bribery, and we have partnered with Trace, which is a gold standard, global gold standard for anti-bribery. And therefore, by having this, you're able to actually trade and do business with several countries around the world who require you to have a Trace certification. In terms of access to markets, we now have a network of over 4,000 SMEs, and we welcome you to register with us to become a member of Biashara.now, so that you can be able to also be part of the SMEs who are responding to opportunities by large organizations. We have linked contracts worth over $154 million, which is very good. We have sustained 88,000 jobs, and we are looking forward to supporting many more jobs during this time when the pandemic has really hit very hard. We know that many sectors have been affected, and it is critical that we are able to sustain the jobs that you already have, and to create jobs in areas of opportunity at the moment. So in terms of linkages to finance, we have linked finance over 580 million Kenya shillings of finance facilitated, and of course having a key focus on women and youth. So moving a bit onto this SME COVID-19 survival program that we are currently running, the whole aim and objective of this program and our partnering with MasterCard Foundation is to help SMEs to be able to recover from the effects of the pandemic. So we have never seen this before. This was unprecedented. It's a very volatile times, and maybe your company was pushed a step back by this pandemic. So what we are aiming to do is to help you to recover and to build back better. So that's why we are here, and we have put together 5 solutions in what we are calling our SME toolkit, and we are delivering this in Kenya, in Ghana, and in Senegal to at least 8,000 SMEs. So you're one of the 8,000, and we are delighted that you could join us now, and we look forward to hearing what else do you need us to do to help your business to get to the next level. So very briefly, we are offering masterclasses such as this one, identifying your needs by constantly asking you. We want to know what is it that you are the challenges you're facing, and building masterclasses to respond to that. Then we shall be supporting you with business coaching. So you will be assigned a coach if you register for this, who will work with you through 4 one-on-one sessions, and will help you work through any project that you have identified will help you get to the next level, whatever it is that you need to build back better. We are also putting together peer-to-peer sessions, and we shall have one each quarter, where we shall bring an SME, maybe who has navigated this before. You can, look at it that way. Navigated some challenges and gotten over, depending on what you share with us you require, and they will be just sharing from their entrepreneurship journey, and we shall be asking questions just to also learn some tips and some takeaways on how can we navigate the specific challenge that you're having. We are putting all this information together in a virtually accessible resource center, which is our Knowledge Academy. It is interactive, it is multilingual, it's actually in English, it's in French, Portuguese, and Arabic. And we look forward to you just beyond the masterclass interacting with it, finding out more about what are experts saying is best practice at this time, or even what are the projections of what's coming up to inform your planning a bit better. And finally, for SMEs who require finance at this time, we shall be taking you through an investor readiness program just to find out first step, where are you at in terms of meeting the requirements of financiers today, and what are the financing institutions seeking, and we shall handhold you in bridging that gap to ensure that you can access to the finance. So for all this, we will share our contacts at the end. Reach out to us if any of this appeals to you, and also reach out to your networks, other SMEs, and let them know that this opportunity is there, and that we are working together to ensure that together we shall be able to sustain the jobs that are there in Kenya, and to build jobs where there's opportunity during this time of the pandemic. So we look forward to engaging with you further on all that. And without further ado, I'm just going to dive quickly on today's session to be able to see what are the potential risks that you face as a business, and to empower you to effectively manage those risks. So at the end of the session, you will also be able to access a free self-assessment tool that you can be able to use to specifically, maybe with your team, look at what risks and warning signs are going on in your business, and how will you be able to ensure that you counter them so that your business is able to build back better than before. Many of us did not already have a risk management framework in place. So this helps you to begin to put that together, and therefore why we are saying that you can build back better from the way we are and be able to survive future crises which may come our way. And to take us through the masterclass, we have a risk expert with us today. She's also a director and founder of First Idea Consulting, Caroline Gadhi, and we are delighted that Caroline is with us again. She's a partner of Invest in Africa, registered on our biashara.now platform, and has actually run masterclasses with us before around risks as soon as the pandemic came about. So First Idea Consulting offers services in risk advisory and training, and Caroline herself has over 20 years experience in different sectors and in the region, specifically around governance, risk, and financial management. She previously worked with PricewaterhouseCoopers, with KPMG East Africa, with the European Union, all before she also set out on her journey, her entrepreneurship journey, and on a path of entrepreneurship. So her key skills are around risk mapping, implementing support, evaluating and monitoring the risk, then putting in place business continuity plans, governance, training, among many others. We will share her contacts after the session, so that if you do need a follow-up session with Caroline, you should be able to reach out easily to her, and she will support your business in risk management, in assessing the risk, and of course in managing it effectively to ensure your business continuity. Caroline, we are delighted you could join us today. Most welcome, and it is your opportunity now to present. Most welcome, Caroline Gavi. We look forward to the presentation.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you very much. I will go straight into the class, into the masterclass, and basically start speaking about risk. I apologize, there could be some music coming from my next door, but I hope that doesn't disturb this session. So I'll start off with a presentation on risk, and we are in risk, like Terry has mentioned. Today we're going to do 4 things. We're going to say have an introduction to risk. We're going to go through 6 steps for risk management process from the ISO 31 standard. We will not cover the whole of it. We're just covering just a very the 6 major steps, and then we're going to talk about 7 warning signs of impending risk, and then we're going to look at several tools. Some of these tools you're very aware about them, like the SWOT tool, the PESTEL tool, and then we're going to have a risk register, which is just one of the many risk framework documentation that you require for your business. So when I speak to people about risk, especially SMEs, they keep asking me, what is risk and how do we understand risk? And I say that risk is the things we do on a daily basis, the things we try to do on a daily basis. I'd like to play a very short video so that we can demystify what risk is, and then we can move from there. So I'll play a very, very short video. Okay, thank you very much, Terry, for sharing the video with us. Maybe just to ask, from your observation of the video, what are the things that you think from the video?
So the child anticipated the risk of falling and put in place some pillows on the floor. That is from Joseph Minor. The pillows which she could, on the floor, place some pillows on the floor on which she could fall. Then Dominic of Polycon says mitigating risk. Leonard has pointed out that the child was thinking about his environment.
All right, great. Thank you very much for those great comments. Actually, that video summarizes our session for today, and I like the comments that you have put forth. Thinking about your environment, having a foresight, what would happen in the future, and what we need to do now so that we can caution ourselves from the risks that we face as business owners. So we said that risk is things that we do on a daily basis. In our businesses, we need to do them as a plan and not as a reaction. And so that's the reason that we are having this session. We need to be deliberate as we manage risks. And based on that short video, we can say that a risk can be defined as an event or circumstance that can cause negative or positive effect on your business objectives. Just like the child, he knew that by the time he falls, he would fall on the ground, but he put the precautions so that he doesn't fall down and hurt himself. So we say that we need to ensure that we caution ourselves from the risks that come with the effects of many internal and external factors, and that's what we call risk management. Remember, the outcome can be either negative or positive effect on your business objectives. So it's not always negative, can be positive or negative effect on your businesses. Some examples of some risks that we face in our businesses: a risk of theft of company money as a result of poor internal controls. That's a negative effect. I see this when you're doing a lot of risk where money from the company is stolen by staff or suppliers, and because of poor internal controls, which is a very important part of risk management. The next example I would like to give is a risk that the business has no money to cater for operational costs due to reduced revenue. This is a negative effect. We have been going through this pandemic period and we know that we have reduced revenues. My question is there anything that we can do to from this negative effect? because there are some positive effects. We have seen some people who have benefited from the pandemic, for example, at the risk of change in the regulations to wear face masks and PPE for all hospital staff and for the public to wear masks. This is a positive effect. There are people who have turned around this change of regulations, and what they're doing is manufacturing masks, manufacturing PPEs, and selling them to the hospitals and to the government and to private entities, because all of us require face masks. We have seen people change their businesses because they have seen an opportunity. So risk management is looking at the environment that presents itself and then asking yourself, how do I benefit from this, or how do I avoid a negative effect on my business objectives? Remember, as a business owner, when you're talking about business, we are talking about our objectives. I'm sure we have all set business objectives. We have strategies in place. We know what we want to achieve in our businesses, and every day we wake up and ensure that we manage to fulfill our business objectives. So what risk management does is ensure that you look at all scenarios which have presented themselves and come up with strategies to ensure that you achieve your business objectives. If it's a positive effect, ensure that you go for it. If it's a negative effect, like the child, you put precautions to your business so that you don't have a problem in the future. So we're going to do these 6 processes. Just to note that these 6 processes are processes from the ISO 31000, which is one of the standards we use in risk management. I've simplified it because I didn't want to prepare a very detailed presentation, but that can be done. So the first step we do in our businesses is establish the business context. All of us have a context of business. It's the internal context based on your SWOT analysis, on your strengths and weaknesses, and the external context which regulate our businesses. So we need first to establish our business context, and we'll go through that shortly. Then we need to to identify the risks. What are the risks based on our business context? And the third thing that we do is determine the risk category. And I'll show you how to determine the risk category based on the frameworks that we have and based on what we can do within our businesses. And the fourth step we do is to determine the risk drivers, the cause of risk, what causes risk, and how can we what can we do to minimize risk. The cause is very important, because when you identify the cause of the risk, then you're able to address the issue. So we don't address the symptoms, we address the cause in risk management. And then the fifth step is to determine the likelihood, consequence, and risk rating, and we're going to go through shortly. And then number 6 is to determine the risk mitigation. Remember, for you to be able to deal with any risk, you have to come up with a strategy to mitigate the risk, and you have to assign that risk to somebody to be able to implement it, a person we call a risk owner in risk management. This is a very long process, but I'll take the shortest time to go through it. And I will start with the first step of establishing the business context. Now, as I said, you establish the business context, and I'm sure most of you have done this, because I believe all of you have strategic plans. Going through a SWOT analysis for your business, the internal risks and the external risks, and going through what is your strength. We say, what is your strength in your business? One of the things I always say, the strength in my business, is that we have highly qualified staff members who are very aware of risk, and we build on that strength by ensuring that we build onto that strength that we have, the differentiating factor that we have, combined years of experience. So what's the strength in your business? And I'm sure you have it somewhere. So one of the things we are saying right now during COVID, some of these things could have changed, and you need to relook at them as a business owner, because the parameters have changed based on the changing environment. Then there are business weaknesses. There is no business which is 100%, including us who do risk management. We also have business weaknesses, and we need to look at our weakness and ask ourselves, how do we reduce our weakness? How do we ensure that we are able to do the businesses with the weaknesses we have? One of the weaknesses I would say is that I worked in very huge entities and came into business later on, and so my years of practicing as on my own are very little, and that's why I partner with Invest in Africa to be able to reduce that weakness of not being in business for a long time. So what are the weaknesses in your business, and how do you reduce your weaknesses? How do you make your weaknesses minimal so that you can be able to work on your strengths? Opportunities. Now, as we say, there's some opportunities which always present themselves. Like we have said, and Kenyans always say they are COVID-preneurs, not millionaires, COVID-preneurs, people who have looked at the opportunities that COVID has presented, and they've come up with products and services to be able to gain from the opportunities that the environment has presented. So as I say again, if you had done your strategy a few years back or before COVID, you might need to think about it and look at the current opportunities that present themselves in the economy, and how do you then look at those opportunities and exploit them for your business. Threats. Every business has a threat. Business threats are very many. So what we do in risk advisory again is to help you avoid those threats. So when you're preparing your strategy, you have this SWOT analysis somewhere. I'm sure it's somewhere in a document. What we do in risk management is take these analysis and make it a live document for your business by taking these the strengths and building on them, weaknesses and reducing them, opportunities and exploiting them, threats and avoiding them. So what we do is to ensure that you are aware about your risks at any time. In risk management, we say you need to have top risks. So every business should have their top 10 risks, and those top 10 risks, there's somebody who is whose speaker is on. We'd like request to just put it off so that we can have a good meeting. So in risk management, we call it strategic risk management. Strategic risk management is taking your weaknesses and strengths and helping you identify top risks. Some businesses call them top 10 risks, some businesses call top 20 risks, and we make it a live document for you to look at on a regular basis, because this is key and critical. And just like this pandemic has made us realize, is that we need to be able to identify these things and build onto them. So I'd like us on the chat box, based on that introduction, I'd like you to tell me, what are the strengths and weaknesses of your business? Thinking about your businesses right now and explanations I have provided, what are the strengths and weaknesses of your business? Remember, these are the things that your business has control over. You have control over your strengths and you have control over your weaknesses. So what are those strengths and weaknesses for your business? I've had people who are in construction, I've had people who are in consulting. So what are the strengths and weaknesses of your business? Can you be able to identify your strengths and weaknesses? Now, this is a thing that we do in strategic planning. In risk, like I said, we take it forward and make it something live. But I'd like us on the chat box to identify, what are the strengths and weaknesses of your business?
Okay, so far we have a few strengths. We have a highly skilled team, a highly trained personnel, a strong brand, adequate human resources. So Grace Mbugwa says a strength is adequate human resources. Strength from Joseph Minor, a niche area of services. For Polycon was a highly trained team. Rita Wawero points a strength of strong branded goods and location. We've talked about adequate human resources. We have a niche area of services, strong branded goods. We have diversified products as a strength, a strong brand, and a great team from Bella. Leonard says weaknesses, there's no data on the sector. Which sector, Leonard? You can share with us some more. But as weakness for his organization is that there's no data on the sector. We have a strength of good location, good understanding of our supply lines. We have machinery we need to deliver to our clients. That's Grace defining further on her strength. Minor points of weakness, inability to hire employees and relying on a team of freelance consultants, hence low levels of accountability and incentive. Polycon, unique nature of our services and good location. So that's a strength for Polycon, who also had a strength in highly trained personnel. Another weakness is employees' dishonesty. Rita pointed that. And young founders not taken seriously. So I believe someone is referring to stakeholder engagement and engaging the stakeholders because they're young founders, they're not taken seriously. Then Leonard has clarified that he meant that they've not collected data. They had not collected data when they got into consulting on soft skills. So because that data is not available, it posed a weakness. And finally, Grace points, I think, what many SMEs can resonate with, that there isn't adequate financial resources to expand into new markets. And weakness for Adrian, lack of employee ownership. A strength, great point of sale system.
Okay.
So we have a good mix of strengths and weaknesses there, Carol.
All right. Great. I like this group. They have very many strengths. I like those strengths: high skilled team, strong brand, good location. The one which has made me most happy is diversified products, and the other one which has made me is adequate human resource. Wow. One of the biggest challenges we know in, especially during the current COVID period, is that people are not able to employ because they have reduced revenues. So we have a good mix of this inability to hire employees. That's one of the biggest challenges. Dishonest employees. I can see that this is a good class to teach fraud management. Young entrepreneurs, a founder not taken seriously, like you have said, that stakeholder management. And you need to point out these strengths and weaknesses, because they inform when you're doing the risk framework. So thank you so much for sharing that. We're going to go to external sources of risk. Now, external sources of risks are risks we do not have control of. We have no control over them, and we use several tools. One of them is a pestle tool. I'll go through it very, very fast. I can send all these notes to you, and we can have a discussion later. So we always say there's an external environment which it can either create a risk or an opportunity. For example, political, government stability and changes. Every time we go to an electioneering year, you know what happens to business. That is a risk you need to have within your risk framework and know how do you deal with it. There's somebody who keeps telling me, you know, when Kenya is on electioneering mode, the neighboring countries are working as usual. So we need to agree to ourselves. Maybe we can go and trade in Uganda, in Rwanda, in Tanzania. So we need to know that it can create an opportunity for us, not just as a threat. Economic, what stage is your business? At what stage is your business? Because at every stage, the product development stage, the launching stage, all those stages have different risks that they present. And based on your business, we can be able to look at your business and tell you what are the cash flow issues, what stage are they, when is cash most required, when are financiers required. So we need to look at your business cycle and say, where does the risk come from, based on your business cycle? And then based on the economic situation, what is the current economic growth? As you know, COVID has presented a very big challenge to the economy. We had a projected economic growth of about 5.3%, and currently we are saying we might grow to less than 1%. So if we had done our strategic plan based on those parameters which were existing before COVID, meaning we need to go back to our strategy and redefine those assumptions, because the economic growth rate is predicted to go below 1%. Inflation will obviously go up. Interest rates have already gone up. So we need to look at these assumptions we are making when we're preparing our strategy and redefine them for us, because they will impact on our business as we go on. Social factors. What are the cultural aspects, the population growth, the age, the living standards at where we operate from, and what are the demographics we serve and the age, and what happens during that age? If I'm serving a youth between maybe 16 and 25, my product is different than when I'm serving maybe somebody who is over 35 or over 30. So what are some of the things we need to take into a consideration when you're thinking about the socio-economic environment that we serve? If my business is operating in Kenya, it cannot operate the same way it operates in Somalia, because the way we live in Kenya It's totally different from the way they live in Somalia. And when we go there, we need to comply with the cultural aspects of businesses. So we need to think about those things as we're going launching our products, and those cause also risks in our business. Technology is another source of risk that we always see. Right now, we have a lot of everybody is on the internet, because that's how most people are transacting their business. So if you're not on the social media platforms, if you're not on LinkedIn, if you're not on Facebook, where are you selling your products, and how are you using this current wave to be able to market your product or to be able to do better business? And what are the assumptions you have created, and what can you do to have this opportunity? And we're going to see some businesses which are actually taking advantage of these advancements in technology to be able to do good business. The legal environment. We have several new regulations. If I'm in an office, I have to sit 1.5 meters from the person next to me, meaning that we might need to change the dynamics of doing business, or maybe we might need to put people working in shifts. We have to wear masks, so we have to be cleaner than usual. We have to take these regulations which have been given to us by the Ministry of Health to be able to do our businesses, and we have to comply to it. That's a compliance issue again. The environment again. What are some of the environmental issues that affect your business? If you're in agriculture, if you're in construction, I've had some people in construction. What are some of the regulations also that apply to that? Some businesses which are using good opportunity, they are using external source risks to be able to benefit their business. We have one of our local companies, Safe Border, which ordinarily has just been doing transport on motorcycle. Now they have diversified to shopping. They are shopping for food and doing food delivery. That is an opportunity they saw, because people are now working from home and people don't want to go to the supermarkets. So they have diversified and they have seen the opportunity. Art Cafe is a high-end restaurant operating in Kenya, and it has begun sale of fresh flowers, fruits, vegetables, meat products, including beer. Who would have thought that an art cafe would have done such kind of business? But they realize they have to diversify their business to be able to make more money and stay afloat in business. Farmer's Choice, which has never been known to go to customer, it was to business, has Aqua Estate facility where they use delivery through their dealers to now go to the customer and not to the business. Now, these are the strategies they have in place to push their product to the customer, reinventing themselves and ensuring that, even if their customers are at home and they're not able to go to the supermarket, they can be able to get the product at the doorstep. Goldman Sachs Group is an American investment bank. They have actually designed products, financial products, which are selling on Amazon. Have you ever thought that a bank would sell anything on Amazon? Amazon has been known to sell products, but now they are selling financial products on Amazon. Can you imagine? This is a multinational American investment bank, which is now selling financial products on Amazon. So the opportunities are limitless. People have changed their mindsets. It's for us as business owners to see how do we use these external sources of opportunities which are presenting themselves in the environment to be able to make good business, because we said a risk can either have a negative effect or a positive effect, a negative effect or a positive effect. So those are some of the things I would say that people are using to be able to identify opportunities. So I'd like us to think about our business based on those examples and based on the things that we have spoken about, based on the political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal factors. What are the opportunities that you see for your business? What are the opportunities that you see for your business? I've had there are people in construction. I don't know, what are the opportunities there? We have heard that there could be a bubble burst in that sector. So what are you going to do about it? We know that people are not able to afford housing. What are you going to do about that? We know that the government is requesting landlords and landowners to reduce the rent payments. What are you going to do about that?
We do have one from Leonard. I say that for our consulting, that was heavily dependent on our face-to-face. Now we have to rethink our engagement with clients.
I can relate to that one.
There's another one coming from Gladys. She's asking what is the difference between SWOT and PESTEL.
Okay.
Opportunities, that is technology, low trade barriers. Threats will be regulations, trade barriers as well. So that one has mentioned trade barriers to be both an opportunity and a threat as well. Then Bella says threat, that is a competition from Chinese products. That's a threat.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, yes, there's one more opportunity, new areas of growth on potential markets in health sector. Yes, definitely they are streaming in now. There's an opportunity from Bella, upselling of complementary products. Yes, another opportunity from Leonard Nyamai. Thank you for this. You have challenged me to finally consider Rwanda for business. Yeah, that's from Leonard Nyamai.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that input. I like that we can see a lot of opportunities. I think that this class is a very is seeing some things which are great. We have very many positive things. In consulting, dependent on face-to-face, we can relate with that. It's how we used to do consulting, and now we need to think about how do we change as consultants and present ourselves differently. Somebody asked me the difference between SWOT and PESTEL. Those are two different tools. One of them is and they can be used at the same time. We have very many tools that we use, and PESTEL is just political, economic, social, technological, environment, and legal factors. SWOT is strengths, opportunities, threats, and weaknesses, and we always look at those in context of your business. And I'll give you a template which you can be able to populate. I won't teach through the content because that is strategic planning, but it is key for strategic risk management. And I think the person who has asked that question, we can have a side chat about how to use those tools in your business, because it's very simple and it can be applied. So advantages is technology. The guy who has said face-to-face, we need to comply with technology. I was used to doing classes throughout. Now face-to-face. Now I'm doing them online, like what I'm doing today. Somebody talked about trade barriers and so many other opportunities, and I like that we are thinking about these things. Now, when we think about these things as opportunities and threats, we need to ask ourselves, so what are we gonna do about them? If the technology is an opportunity, what be able to use this tool to be able to come up with a SWOT for your business, and it's critical that you are able to manage your business using your strengths and weaknesses, and you're able to do those things. So I will share that tool. It will come with the notes, and we'll go to the second step. So we have done the first step of risk. The second step is scenario analysis. Now, this is a very critical step, and one of the things I would say is that scenario analysis is one thing that I'd say that is the most important part of risk advisory. So what happens at this stage when you're doing risk analysis, based on the things we have identified, we then start identifying the risks, and we ask ourselves very many questions. I have just sampled a few, and we start asking ourselves, what could go wrong? There are people who are saying there is going to be a second wave of COVID. There are people who are saying there could be a third wave of COVID. There are people who are saying that schools may never open until January. So if you're in the education sector or in such similar sector where you supply to the education sector, what does that mean for your business? And what do you need to plan? How could you fail? How would you, if your business is to fail, what are the things would cause it to fail? And what are the things you need to avoid? What keeps you up at night? For me, there are some things which keep me up at night, and I keep thinking those are the biggest risks for my business. Every business owner knows when they lock their businesses and go home, or when they shut their businesses, they know what is disturbing them. That thing that keeps telling you there's something wrong there tells you that is a risk for your business. And we need to think about this very critically, because it is something that is disturbing you, and meaning that it is something that will that may happen. What has to take place for you to meet your goals? There are some things which have to take place for you to meet your goals. What are they? What do people complain about your organization? If somebody gives you feedback, you need to take your feedback seriously. Now, in Kenya, people don't like taking feedback. In fact, people also don't like giving feedback. But this is where the risks fall. If somebody has complained about your business, in fact, we say that feedback is the breakfast of good business owners. So if I'm given feedback in my business, I will think about it and work around it. The best clients who I have worked with are people who have given me feedback, people who have told me things about my business, and from them I learn a lot and change my business. So we need to take feedback from our clients very seriously, and it's important that we listen to our clients. What must go right for you to succeed? You need to ask yourself, what has to go right for you to succeed? If you're in the consulting space, what must you do to succeed? You might need to get a certification. You might need to go back to school. If you're in construction, you might need to think about a different way of doing things. What is that way that you need to think about going forward? There's one person who is in the construction sector, and we were speaking last week, and they were saying people are not able to afford housing. But I told him one thing: have you thought how people live in the West? Think about people sharing rooms, and for you not to rent to one person but rent to different people, sharing and occupying the same place so that they can be able to afford your space. Have you thought about what needs to go right? Because you have a building, you won't demolish it tomorrow. So what do you need to do right now if you're in that space of managing property? Instead of letting your clients leave, why can't you have people share the same space? And you know what? They have started looking at ways of helping people share space so that people do not leave their housing projects. And so you need to think about it. But this scenario setting process needs to happen when you're sitting down and taking notes and speaking to different people. We facilitate scenario setting analysis, and you need to know that this is a very sensitive part of risk advisory. Remember, we have come up with our strategy, we have our SWOT analysis, we have our PESTEL analysis, but then we need in risk to move from setting this setting the scene and going to real business and looking at now those scenarios and creating and ensuring that we identify risks and opportunities. How is this scenario likely to occur? So you need to look at different scenarios, how they're going to occur, and what you're going to do about it. And then how would this scenario impact the organization? So we do different questions to be able to facilitate these discussions, just to say this scenario analysis is part of our service provision. We can give you a 2-hour session to just think about your business, create scenarios, and come out with some risks and opportunities that you need to identify for your business. I'd say that this is the most important part of risk advisory. If you get this place right and you'll be able to identify your opportunities and risks and how you're going to deal with them, then you'll be doing good risk management for your business. Now, there are different techniques to do scenario analysis. You can do using questionnaires and checklists, workshop and brainstorming, and you can do using inspection and audits. Research has shown that brainstorming is the best method to be able to get those things out. So you need to speak to people. You can't do it alone. So as a business owner, even if it's getting a group of friends to just sit and think about your business, think about how is your business progressing. It's key and important that you do that, especially during this time of COVID. You cannot assume any of these things going forward. So once you do that, you come up with something we call a risk statement. And the risk statement has 3 things: the cause of the event, and this is linked to your objectives. Anything we do in risk for businesses should be linked to your objectives. So if you don't have objectives, we cannot do risk management. You need to start from the first and then move all the way to risk management. So we said that the cause of the event is linked to your objectives, and the potential event or condition is the event which may occur, and then the consequence is the result or impact that thing will have onto your business. So we say that our risk statement should have 3 things. When I go to businesses, I normally see a lot of risk, some risk registers, at least for the ones who have, and they do not have the structure, this structure of risk. It should have a cause, it should have the event, and it should have the consequence. We need to think about what would happen, what is the potential for that happening or condition, and what is the consequence once it happens. Critical things that you need to have in a risk statement. Once we do that, and I'm going to go through this and we'll do it practically. We have the cause on one side, on this side. Then we have the event, and then we have the consequence. This is called the bow tie tool. We use it in risk management. It's a very simple tool. You can put it on a blackboard and talk about it. You can put it on a flip chart and talk about it. It is not a complicated thing. You just talked about what is the cause of your risk, what is the event, and what is the consequence. And we're going to go practically through it, and we can also give sessions of how you can go through this identification of risks using this tool. It's a very, very simplified tool. So I'll use this tool to come up with a risk statement, a general risk statement. So the objective of this person who I have put here, person A, is to travel by bus from point A to point B for a meeting at a certain time. So this person's objective is to travel by bus from point A to point B for a meeting at a certain time. So what would cause them from going and arriving in that meeting? Remember, they are traveling by bus. So if they don't catch the bus, it will cause them to be late. So the first thing is missing the bus would cause them from getting late. That's a cause. As a cause is missing the bus. What is the event? Remember, their objective is to get to a meeting. So the event is going late for your meeting, getting late for your meeting. And then what would be the consequence? What would be the consequence? So the consequence is being late or missing the meeting totally. So we say that the risk statement should read, missing the bus causes me to be late and miss the meeting. Missing the bus causes me to get late and miss the meeting. Simple, straightforward sentence, but it has the cause, missing the bus, it has the event, going late for the meeting, it has a consequence of missing the meeting. Very simple statement. So all our risk statements are supposed to have those 3 categories, and this is a very important part. So I want us to think about a business. So on the chat box, I want us to think about this business. We are supposed to grow revenue by 20%. By 20%, that is 12 million from the previous revenues of 10 million, meaning that in 2019, our business revenue was 10 million. And our objective for this year was to grow our revenue by 20% to 12 million. So what would cause us not to grow our revenue by 20%? And what would be the consequence? Remember, the event is obvious. The event is like we said, the event needs to be tied to the objective. So if the event is inability to achieve 20% growth for the financial year 2020. So what would be the cause? What would cause you not to achieve that objective? And if you don't achieve that objective, what would happen to your business? So I'd like us on the chat box to think about our businesses and think that this is one of our business. We're supposed to grow revenue by 20% to 12 million from the previous revenues of 10 million. So I'd like us on the chat box to say, why should we, what would cause us not to grow our revenue by 20%? And also think about your business, because right now most businesses are struggling with revenue. So what would cause your business not to grow by a 20% margin? What would cause your business not to grow by the margins that you have created? Think about your business, what would cause it, and then what would be the consequence? Consequence is the result. What would the impact be? Would you lay off staff? Would you close your offices? Would you close shop? Missing to attain 20% revenue target for the year 2020. What would be the cause? Remember, the cause is what will cause you not to make the 20% growth. And then if that is the case, what would be the consequence? So I would like you on the chat box to note for me 2 things. What would cause you not to achieve 20%? Number two, what would be the consequence if you don't achieve the 20%?
Yes, we do have some comments streaming in. Kamal Sandeep talking over COVID-19, of course, will make her not achieve the 20% growth. The consequences will be not able to pay the suppliers and close the shop. Then we do have another one saying collapse of businesses due to COVID-19, global pandemic. Cause of not achieving targeted revenue, low sales caused by COVID-19. Consequences, business closure or stagnation. And then there's another cause here, missing the revenue target. Yes, we do have another one, reduced profit margins in a certain product due to increased product prices.
Okay. I want us to do this practically. And so what I have prepared is something we call a risk management plan or a risk register. This is just one of the tools that we have that we use when we are helping our clients think about risk in a more direct way. And I have already populated growing revenue by 20% from the previous year. So we had the event, which is there may be decline in revenue and 20% revenue may not be achieved. Just to say what the columns of this document are very briefly, we have the risk number. Every risk should have a number. We need to have the business objective because remember the reason we do risk is to be able to address our objectives. There's a risk event which we have talked about and the risk cause and consequence. Then we have a risk category which we'll talk about shortly. We have the risk driver which we'll talk about shortly. We have the likelihood, we will talk about it shortly. We'll have the impact, risk rating, mitigating factor, and risk owner. So this is a document we actually help businesses prepare. In different places, it's a totally different document, but it has the same kind of content. But I want us to use these to be able to help us. And after this session, I would like all of us to prepare this for our businesses. Just to note that we have a risk system called the risk tab. The risk tab helps you put this in a cloud system and you help you monitor the risk and give you different risk reports. So I'll just say the risk cause. So I asked a question. What would cause you not to achieve the 20% growth? Is COVID what I've had some of the causes are COVID, but what is the actual cause? I want to ask, what is the actual cause? Lillian, kindly ask, is there anything which has actual causes? So what is COVID causing?
I think COVID is causing them not being able to meet financial obligations to lenders and financiers, resulting in low growth. There's another one that is talking about reduced profit margins due to lesser products demand as purchasing power have been lowered.
Now, reduced profit margins is an impact. Remember, when you talk about consequence, it is what it's going to do to your business. Reduced profit margins. Okay, that is one. I want us to get to another one. And this is a very important part, especially for people in business. And this is where the rubber hits the road. If you're not able to identify this for a business, it will be I would like us to be able at least to identify two for each. So one of the impact is reduced profit margin. Somebody say business collapse. Those are consequences. And then there's somebody who also said what? Missing revenue targets. Those are all consequences. I want us to think about what is causing this. What is it causing reduced profit margin? What would cause business collapse? What would cause missing revenue targets? What would cause? I think somebody said that. Somebody actually said low sales.
There's another one talking of government restrictions causing to the closure of businesses.
Great. That's a good one. The government has restrictions. Remember when you did the pastel, we talked about regulations. So closure of borders, hence we are unable to trade. Even somebody talked about trade at some point. That's a very good one. Actually, that's a cause. Remember, it's a cause is what would trigger the event. So low sales due to low sales due to lack of demand of goods and services.
We do have loss of our market share, low demand from customers. There's another one talking of a closing of bars. Then inability to meet overheads. I think that's our consequences. Cannot keep operations running, layoffs or eventual closure.
Here you say there's something else you said, regulation on closure of certain businesses.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So we have very many points here, and I'm very happy that we have all these points. I hope that once you get this template, you'll be able to then use it to be able to come up with those scenarios for yourself, and then you can project them. So I'll go back to the PowerPoint. I'll go back to the PowerPoint presentation. We're going to go to the next stage where we then talk about the risk register, which we have seen. And basically the reason we have it is because we use it to record risk. We use it to facilitate ownership and management of risk, which is what you're going to see shortly. We use it to just cover significant risks. And this is an exercise, but when we do it practically with an organization, we help them just identify significant risks only and work on those significant risks. It's actually a record of control, and it helps us manage action. And it has different names. Some people call it a register, a plan, a framework. We need to review it regularly, and we need to populate it with the cause of the risk and consequence like we have done. So I want us to go to the third step, which is to determine the risk category. This might sound a bit difficult, but it is a very straightforward session. What do I mean by the risk category? The risk category is how we categorize our risks. In risk, there are standards which have been set by the regulatory bodies of our risk profession, and some of the factors that are used are risks that cause deterrent to finances. They're called financial risks. There are some risks which are that cause impact on reputation. They're called reputational risks. And then there are also risk classification systems which are used. And one of the things I always say at this point in time, you don't need to use the international standards. There are some businesses which we go to, and especially which have their own risk classification. But then there are standards which we can use, which are already set. But you can be able to categorize your risks, like they have had somebody saying export risk. You can be able to classify your risks in the category that you think is fit for your business. And I think that that is one of the leeway that we always say as risk professionals. You don't have to use the classifications. However, the classifications are already vetted and put in place for us to be able to use them, and you can use them when you want. Now, there are three key ones that we use in risk as risk categories. The first one is called the cause of ERM. I don't want to go through those acronyms. And then there's the IRM standard, and then there is a firm risk scorecard. So the COSO, I'm sure most of you have heard about the COSO ERM. It classifies risk in 4 categories: strategic risk, operational risk, reporting risk, and compliance risk. Then the IRM framework, which is our body which regulates the risk profession, classifies risk into financial, strategic, operational, and hazard. The firm risk scorecard classifies risk into financial, infrastructure, reputational, and marketplace. From my experience, most people use the COSO ERM framework, which has strategic, operational, risk, and compliance. Even today, when we had Invest in Africa talk about risk, you could see from their introduction, they had used the COSO ERM. So that's the risk I use to just give this example. However, organizations have the leeway to come up with their own or use already existing risk categories. So, using the COSO framework, and just to highlight this, the strategic, operational, and reporting and compliance, strategic risk means that risk exposure that could lead to lack of achievement of business objectives, leading to business failure. So when it is a strategic risk, the risk you have identified could result to business failure. So we say strategic risks are very serious risks, and we need to take them very seriously. So we need to categorize the risks we have come up with and and confirm what risk category is it. Then operational risks are risks which are caused due to failed internal procedures, processes, people, and systems. So it's an internal, something is not working internally properly. Then there are reporting risks, and these as a result arising from reporting requirements from internal and external stakeholders. So for example, one of the requirements that we have in business is, for example, make annual returns to the company register every year. So if you have not been doing that, that is a reporting risk, because there's an external stakeholder called the company's registry, which you're supposed to report on an ongoing basis. That's a reporting risk. Then we have the stakeholders, like maybe owners, that require that you report to them. So if you don't report to them on a regular basis as per their requirement, then that's a reporting risk. Then there's the other risk we call the compliance risk, a very critical risk. Compliance, these are risks that are based on the rules and regulations set by regulators and stakeholders. Who are our regulators? Every sector has different regulators. If you come from a sector like, for example, the building sector, like somebody has told me, there are different regulators. There is and you need to comply with them. In the health sector, there is Poisons Board. In the sector we are in risk, we have some ISPAC and amongst other regulators. But there are general regulators like Kenya Revenue Authority. We have to comply with paying taxes. NSSF is a regulator because you're regulated to pay the National Social Security. NHIF is another one. So we have very many regulators. In fact, within your business, you should have a list of who are your regulators. When I talk to the finance sector, they have very many regulators. They have CBK for banks. They have for the ones in the insurance, they have the insurance regulator. For the people in MFIs, they have the SASRA. So there are very many regulators for different industries, and you need to know who are your regulators other than the general regulators, and you need to comply with them. So when you're doing risk advisory, we also come up with a compliance matrix, the dates of payments, the type of regulation, and we help you comply with that. So risk category, like we said, we're using the causal framework. So we need to categorize our risks. At the risk, we are having strategic risk, operational risk, compliance risk, or reporting risk. Can you be able to tell me, from looking at this, do we have a compliance risk, an operational risk, or a reporting risk? On the chat box.
Yes, we do have. Leonard talking about operational risk. Operational risk.
Is it an operational risk?
There's another one talking of strategic risk. Yeah, and Gladys endorsing that this is a strategic risk.
Okay, let us again revisit. What is a strategic risk? A strategic risk is a risk that would cause
business closure or business failure. An operational risk is a risk that comes because of failed processes, procedures, people, and systems that is within the organization. So is this a strategic risk or an operational risk? So we say that it is a strategic risk, and we are going to go back to our slides and basically just speak about the next step. Sorry, I hope that my slides are visible. And we are going now to go to the final stages of coming up with this risk register, and basically talk about risk driver. So a driver is what drives the risk, and there are three key things that drive risk: people, systems, and external factors. So we say people drive fraud, vandalism, human error, strikes, and miscommunication. Systems are things like machine breakdown, internal control, or things which have lived throughout their life and they are obsolete, like computers and all that. Then external factors are your suppliers, your customers, natural calamities like earthquakes and floods. So what do you think causes the risk we have spoken about? We have talked about climate change. I guess it's obvious. It's external factors, isn't it? Those are external factors. They are external to the business. So we will put in the risk register external factors and move on to likelihood. I want us to just move on straight to the likelihood, consequence, and risk rating. So here we categorize the risk into likelihood. Likelihood refers to the possibility of the risk potentially occurring. This could include likely, possible, and remote. And then impact is what is the magnitude of the consequence. Would it be high, medium, or low? And then the assessment is whether an assessment of likelihood and the impact of the risk, which is the risk rating, which you're going to do right now. So I want us to do that when we get back to the Excel sheet, and I want us to just we're going to use this matrix. It's called the heat map to come up with the rating of the risks, and then we can. We are remaining a few minutes. I can see that we are running out of time and conclude on this. So we have said it's a strategic risk. And we have also said that the risk driver is external factors. And then the likelihood, we have said we need to find out on the chat box. Is this risk likely to happen? Is it possible to happen? And remote. Likely is like 75%, 75%. Possible is like 50%, and remote could be maybe about 5%. So is this likely to happen? On the chat box, I'd like to hear from you on the chat box. Is it a likely risk to happen? A risk that would require that you close your business. Is it likely? On the chat box, is there any likely, possible, remote?
Yes, we do have one yes from George. Yes, it's from Bella.
It's likely. What did they say? Likely, possible, or remote?
It's likely.
It's likely, yeah?
Yeah,
I think
yes.
it's likely. We have seen business which are going down. And then the other question on impact we ask, is it high, low, or medium? Is it high, low, or medium? Once it happens, will the impact be a high impact? We will close our factory. Is it really going to be a medium impact, or is it going to be a low impact? Mostly strategic risks, once they take place, the impact is usually high because it is not easy to go through business closure. I believe that all of you are aware about what is this called? The Naivas supermarket. And you'd see it had strategic, I would say, call it strategic risk matters. And once it took place, once the risk took place, it was dramatic. And we always say that we need to avoid business closure. We need to avoid business closure because it has a lot of impact on other things, like the Nakumat case. So now on risk rating, when you're doing risk rating, you look at the combination of likelihood on an impact on our matrix, which I'm going to project here. So we have likely and high. Likelihood is likely and impact is high. So we go back to this matrix, which we call the heat map. We have said the impact is high and the likelihood is likely. You can see it's on the red. It's on the red zone. So meaning that our risk is actually on the highest level of risk, And that is how we come here and say it is high and it has a red color. And we ensure that we then put it on the red. Sorry, it's not the red one I want. We put it on the red as a red color. Remember, when we put these as high, that means we need to work on it. And when we are doing this, we use, like I said, we have a system which can help you do this better. And we can help you produce risk reports. So we come to the next very important part of this risk register. And I would like to ask, what can we do so that we can mitigate this risk from happening? What can we do to avoid business closure? What can we do to avoid low sales? What can we do that we are not able to trade? Like somebody said, to trade internationally, the flights are not there. What can we do here right now to avoid business closure? Now, this is a very important part of this process. So are we going to say we are going to close business? Are we going to transfer it? Or are we going to accept it and come up with a control? So I want us to, on the chat box, and this could be the last thing that we do, the second last thing that we do. Can you be able to tell me what can we do so that we can avoid business closure? This is a very important part of risk mitigation.
Yes, we do have one from George, business diversification and cope with technology. Then we have another one saying merger. I believe this is business merger. Yes, we do have explore new opportunities and market the products broadly, probably digitally. There's another option of money saving. There's another one talking about from brick and mortar to online.
I like all this. I think that what we may need to do, and especially if it's your business, that if you mean business diversification, you need to say, what are you diversifying to? If you are talking about business merger, who are you merging with? If you're taking advantage of technology, which technology and how do you go about it? If you're talking compliance with the regulators, then you need to come up with, like what I was saying, a compliance matrix, ensure you comply with it as you go along, which is part of a very important part of risk management. Seeking joint ventures and investors, I like that very much. And I think that joint ventures are very important, especially in exports, because export quantities are huge. So seeking those partnerships and making sure that these activities are properly documented. When you're doing these activities, when somebody suggests something, we explore them, come up with the write-up, and ensure that you have something written up so that this mitigating factor is actually taken into account and done. So exploring new markets digitally, this is very critical and it is doable, especially now. And then from brick and mortar to online. Yeah, it was from brick and mortar to online. I think then you need to come up with a strategy. How do you go from brick and mortar to online? Great things that you have mentioned. I like this. I don't think we've ever come up with as many as this when I do this class, and I like that there's a lot of diversity. Now, once you come up with your risk register, the next thing that you need to do is we allocate this to somebody to do, a manager in charge. So who are some of the people you would give this job to? On the chat box, who is in charge of business diversification in your business? Are you the business owner who is in charge? Is there somebody who can be able to help you get a merger? Who would that be? Remember, this should be within your organization, because you're dealing within your organization and the person can go and work with somebody else. But the person in charge is somebody within your organization. Take advantage of technology. Who will be in charge of that? Compliance with regulators. Who is going to be in charge with that? So when you're doing risk registers, we ensure that each risk or each activity is linked to somebody to do it. So who are some of those people that we use to come up with these risk mitigating measures?
Gladys is talking of board.
Board. Okay.
Middle level managers.
But you need to give a name. When you're talking about a middle level manager, you need to give a title. So I'll just write here manager. But now when you're doing your business, you maybe have a human resource manager, ICT manager, or whichever you have in your business.
Just two more, Caro, business owners, business development and a research department. Then we do have a risk mitigation by business development team, leaders and project managers.
Great.
We have compliance and quality managers, get input from the stakeholders like employees, customers. Yes, we can proceed.
Okay, I like this group. We have a lot of interaction, and that is so good. These will be sent to you because you have input on it. You can use it now to come up with your own business. We are available to help you do this. We do it more comprehensively and helping you better. This was just a demo of how you can be able to do it. So just to close this session, I'd just like to close it with some of the things I see when I come to SMEs, and I think that you need as SMEs to be able to think about as you go through your business, and also take note in your business. So I'll just go through this and just 7 warning signs of impending risk. 7 warning signs of impending risk. Excessive debt to equity ratio. Now, if you have so much debt in your business, it is not a good thing. Anything over 33%, which is like an indicator, you need to look at your debt and be very clear that you will be able to take care of that debt. Reliance on a small number of customers, which has all of us affected us during this COVID. Your market size needs to be addressed. You have a small number of customers and you need to widen. And we have now technology, like we are saying, we can do mergers, we can do so many other things. Inability to pay for operational costs, that's liquidity. It's a liquidity problem. It's an indicator of impending risk. And we need to think about our liquidity, and also not just our liquidity, our operational costs. What are the costs maybe we can save on? Or how can we be able to do our businesses effectively without incurring a lot of operational costs? High staff turnover, which is one of the things I see in SMEs. We need to know how do we manage the human resource. And I also see a lot of cases against on human resource, people who have been sued and businesses sued because they did not take care of their employees. So that's another big problem that we need to address. Fraud within the organization. I think we've talked about this. One of our services is fraud assessment. And this is because of internal control, simple things that needs to be put in place so that you don't fall into trouble. And then inconsistency in products and service. One of the things we say is that once you provide a service, it needs to be consistent wherever you are. Once you have a product, which is a honey product, if I take it today and I take it next week, it's the same product. If I take it in Uganda and I take it in Rwanda, if it's the same product, it has the same taste. So consistency, meaning that your processes should be of top notch. Then regulatory issues are like we have talked about, issues to do with KRA. So many SMEs are dealing with compliance issues with KRA, having tax arrears, having tax burdens we should not have. That's a compliance issue, and we need to take care of that. Those are some of the 7 key warning signs that just leave with you today. And just to say that we are available we do risk advisory, as we said. We help you to do risk assessment, fraud risk. We develop risk registers. We help you implement risk. We have a risk tab. It's the only one that exists in Kenya, developed by us, simple, straightforward, which is being used. We help you with business continuity and business processing. We also do boardroom conversations where you have a 2-hour session just to talk about risk, and then you can go and implement. Only a 2-hour session. And then we also do risk training, and we also do credit risk management. We help you with your credit. We help you to score credit. We also help you to do credit risk management and credit savvy. So we have our own staff who are also on this webinar, who also work with me to be able to make this better. So I'd like to thank you so much for attending this session, and I'd like to hand over the session back to Invest in Africa for the next step. So thank you so much, and have a good rest of the afternoon. Asante sana.
We'll be able to share our contacts. Definitely, those are the speaker for today's contacts. Reach her through LinkedIn. She's on Twitter, Facebook. She has given her contact details. And you can write to us through the given details. I hope you're all able to see our contacts there as well. Just reach out to us depending on whichever areas that you would want us to partner with you. Remember, we're all doing this for the sake of our SMEs and to ensure that we are connected. So follow the conversation on Twitter. Might you have missed anything? We'll be sharing this on our YouTube channel. You can we'll share a link on how you can access these materials, the content that Akara has taken us through, And finally, I would want to appreciate each and every one of you for staying till the end. I don't know if I can pick, just point on to one of our guests today to just give us a vote of thanks, tell us the experience about the session, give feedback to our speakers so that we can sharpen this conversation in the next series to come. And so I'm not so certain whether Dominic from Polycon is still with us. Dominic?
Yes, I am present.
Yes, this is your opportunity. Tell us about your experience for the session.
Thank you so much, Carol. This was fantastic. You know, for us in SME, some of the risks, we never consider them as risks. We only see it as it was a risk after the collapse, might be, or after the consequences. Because the day you're not paying your taxes and then the KRA come and close down your business, you say it is because they hate you or you belong to another party, and this is a risk that you took yourself. Thank you very much for running us through this process. It was very, very insightful, and especially the fact that these are some of the things that we need every time to put in our business. For everything that we are doing, we need to ask ourselves, what are the consequences of this? What is the risk? If we identify a risk, what are the consequences? Rather than, it is normal for us in SME to act for consequences upwards, and this is where even things like corruption come in, because the moment you are already in the consequences, you can do anything to get back, to survive. But it is nice to see that we can be able to address this from the beginning. Unfortunately, some of the risks that we are experiencing today, we can do nothing about it. The only thing I possibly would do is we need also to look at when we talk about mergers and buyouts and all that. Sometimes they don't necessarily always mitigate some of the risks, because merging two risks does not produce better consequences. You both collapse. The fact that your business is not doing fine and mine is not doing fine, we combine together, is not always that it will work. So, but this was very, very, very insightful, and thank you very much. And we hope you can give us another session. As far as I'm concerned, anybody who attended here must have gained something, and if we apply it, possibly we will all survive. Thank you so much.
So at this point, we can depart at our own pleasure. Thank you, Carol. We look forward to seeing you, and thank you, our esteemed guests.